I want you to take a deep breath before continuing to listen to this, because there is something you've been avoiding for far too long. Something that beats beneath your skin while you pretend everything is under control. It doesn't matter how much you deny it. It doesn't matter how many filters you put over your life. Every day you choose. And each one of those choices is building or destroying the only destiny you will ever have. Do you feel it? That pressure in your chest when I tell you there is no neutral place to hide. There is no middle refuge where your decisions don't count. And right now, while you try to convince yourself I'm exaggerating, your mind remembers all those times you knew which path was right, and yet you surrendered to comfort. Does that sound harsh? Perfect. It's time to face the truth. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine that everything you don't do, everything you postpone, everything you pretend doesn't affect you, accumulates in a dark room inside you. A room where the echoes of your own voice whisper that you're not capable, that it's not the right moment, that tomorrow will be different. Can you hear it? That voice that keeps you lukewarm, that strokes you with excuses while it slowly extinguishes what you once dreamed to be. No one else can enter there. No one is going to rescue you from that darkness. The worst part is that you believe nothing is happening, that you can leave it for later, that somehow life will wait for you with open arms when you decide to get up. But there is something they never told you. Every choice you make automatically is like opening a small crack in your foundation. Today, it's an insignificant decision. Staying in bed 15 minutes longer, staying silent when you should speak, pretending you don't care. Tomorrow, that crack becomes a hole that swallows your confidence and determination. And one day you will wake up wondering why nothing you do fulfills you. Why everything feels like a hollow echo of what you imagined living would be. Do you want to know why you are drifting away from your own potential? Because the comfortable path has a price you were never taught to calculate. It steals your chance to feel alive. Meanwhile, that other path, the one you almost always reject, the one that requires you to face your anxiety, your mental patterns, your most primitive fears, is the only one capable of transforming you. And yes, maybe right now your heart is beating faster because you recognize what I'm saying. Because even if you try to hide it, deep down you know you have been feeding the part of yourself that settles for survival for far too long. And now I want you to visualize something else. Imagine you are standing at a crossroads in the middle of the night. Two paths open in front of you. One is lit by warm lights, inviting you to rest, to sit down for a moment, to forget your responsibilities. It promises immediate calm. It whispers that it's okay to give up just one more day. The other path is dark. You can barely distinguish the ground. It's silent, unsettling, uncomfortable. But if you pay attention, if you ignore the whisper of comfort, you will notice something inside you beating strongly when you look toward that darkness. Because deep down, you know it. There lies your freedom. There lies your growth. There lies the version of you that doesn't run away. Most choose the lit path because it's easier to deny their own cowardice than to admit that every misstep is voluntary. You decide every day whether to be just another one who fades away among excuses or to become someone who dares to face their own shadow and walk forward anyway. Does it scare you? Good. That means you are on the right track. Fear is a sign that you are near a territory where change is possible. If you don't tremble a little, if you don't feel dizzy, it's because you keep choosing the slow death of comfort. Maybe right now you want to look away, to distract yourself with anything so these words don't pierce you. But before you do, answer something. How much longer are you going to stay at the threshold of your own life? How many opportunities will you give away to the void while you tell yourself the same story as always? You are not here today by chance. If you are listening to this, it's because a part of you has grown tired of lying to itself. Because you know every micro-decision, even the most ridiculous, brings you closer to or farther from a life worth remembering. And if you think I'm exaggerating, if your mind tries to minimize what I'm telling you, I want you to take a deep breath and listen carefully. No one is going to come save you. No one is going to push you down the right path. No one is going to applaud you when you choose the hard way, because real well-being, authentic growth, have no audience. You either build it in silence, or you become another walking corpse pretending to be okay while your soul rots with resignation. The moment to decide is not tomorrow. It's not when you have less stress, nor when life is easier. The moment is now, while your heart beats, while you still feel that tingling at the nape of your neck, when you hear you have less time left than you think. Because that is another uncomfortable truth you'd rather ignore. Everything you don't resolve today will be an unbearable burden tomorrow. And even if you keep fooling yourself, sooner or later the bill will come. Then you will understand that every postponed choice is a brick in the prison you are building yourself. Don't believe me if you don't want to. Keep living in that middle ground you think exists. Keep numbing your conscience with cheap entertainment and elaborate excuses. But remember this: every moment that passes, you are tipping the scales to one side. And when you finally dare to open your eyes, you may discover you have already crossed the threshold into the void without realizing it. Do you feel it? That chill running up your spine is no coincidence. It's the sign that you have just heard something you will not be able to ignore. Because now you know there is no turning back. Either you decide to face your own cowardice head-on and do something about it, or you resign yourself to becoming a nameless memory, a biography written with excuses. You decide. And now that you have felt that chill, I want you to stay with me a little longer, because we haven't yet touched the deepest root of all this. I'm going to tell you something almost no one dares to admit. Most of the decisions you make don't come from your conscious will. They are conditioned reflexes, automatic responses you've inherited from years of fear, trauma, family expectations, and defeats you never fully processed. Think about this. How many times have you felt you were going to change your life once and for all? How many promises did you make to yourself in silence, with clenched teeth and a burning heart? And yet, days later, you were exactly in the same place. Do you know why that happens? Because there is a mechanism much more powerful than your fleeting enthusiasm: your identity. What you believe yourself to be deep inside. If your identity is woven with threads of self-pity, with the belief that you are not enough, that you don't deserve a full life, then no matter how motivated you are for a while, you will return, like a dog tied to its chain, to the same corner where you always hide. That's why I want you to breathe slowly and listen carefully. Your decisions are not just logical choices. They are rituals that confirm who you are. Every time you choose the easy way, every time you give in to the immediate impulse, you are repeating to yourself the same prayer. I am weak. I am small. I am incapable. And the more you repeat it, the more it becomes your truth. It doesn't matter that your reason knows it's not real. It doesn't matter that you tell yourself you'll do better tomorrow. The human mind doesn't obey what you think superficially. It obeys what you reinforce with your actions. That's why I ask you, what identity are you feeding today? Because neutrality doesn't exist. Innocent rest doesn't exist. Every gesture, every delay, every concession to your fear is another brick in building that tiny self that keeps you trapped. And there is more, something perhaps no one has clearly explained to you. Your body remembers too. Your body knows when you are running away. It knows when you are postponing. And the more time you spend ignoring those signals, the more your mind disconnects from your biology. That's the real trap. When your body and mind stop working together, you start feeling that vague sensation that nothing makes sense, that nothing matters because everything feels like a labyrinth with no exit. And then you convince yourself the only option is to give up little by little. But don't fool yourself. The void you feel is not inevitable. It's the symptom that you have been a stranger in your own existence for too long. Emotional well-being, balance, are not things that appear just because one day you feel like being happy. They are the result of radically honest choices, of moments when you decide to do what's right, even if no one applauds you, of days when you get up, when everything in you wants to stay down, of conversations with yourself in which you recognize all your lies. And I want you to visualize this, a scene where each of your negative thoughts, each justification, each self-defeating phrase takes physical form. Imagine them as shadows gathering around you. Some have the voices of your parents, others your friends, others sound exactly like you when you're tired. And they all repeat in a monotone chorus. You can't, you're not worthy, don't even try. This is the entourage that accompanies you when you decide not to choose consciously. This is the silent army that steals your future while you swear you're just taking a break. Now tell me something. Do you really want to keep feeding those voices? Because every time you choose comfort, you give them power. You're telling them they're right. You're allowing them to rewrite your story in their language of mediocrity. But there is another possibility. Even if it costs more than you're used to giving, you can, right now, start planting different seeds, small actions that contradict each of those voices. Minimal decisions that reconnect you with the part of you that still remembers you weren't born to settle. And maybe right now you feel a tremor in your hands, a knot in your throat, because you know I have put words to something you've been feeling for years, but never dared to confess. That's good, because that discomfort is the crack through which light can enter. As long as you stay numb, as long as you keep convincing yourself everything is fine when really you're rotting inside, nothing will change. Discomfort is your ally. It's the compass that shows you that, finally, you're starting to look where you always glanced sideways. And now I want you to think about something you never seriously considered before. The path that seems safest is the one that strips you of your courage. The one that convinces you that feeling safe is better than feeling alive. How many times have you given up even before starting, just because your mind showed you a movie of anticipated failure? How many dreams have you buried with the excuse that it wasn't the right time? I want you to understand this brutally. There is never a perfect moment. You will never have guarantees. The only difference between those who transform their lives and those who become human statues is that some act while feeling fear, and others wait for the fear to disappear. But fear doesn't go away. Fear changes shape. At first it shows up as anxiety, then as fatigue, then as a reasonable voice telling you it's better not to take risks. And if you listen to it long enough, it ends up becoming your identity. And that's when you start dying, not all at once, but in small silences, in postponed decisions, in dreams that wither without anyone mourning them. That's why, if today you want to get out of that cycle, you'll have to do something that seems contradictory. Embrace the vertigo. Recognize that uncertainty is not your enemy, but your only chance for redemption. Because as long as you keep waiting for a future to come rescue you, you will remain the docile prisoner who gives away their power to the same patterns that destroy them. So look at yourself with brutal honesty. Think about all those times you were about to choose the uncomfortable path and ended up convincing yourself it wasn't necessary. Think about everything you've lost by choosing what seemed easier. And ask yourself, what would have been different if you had endured the discomfort a little longer? If you can answer without running away, if you can hold that question without justifying yourself, you are closer than you think to reclaiming your life. Because everything starts at that moment you decide to face what you have always feared, without adornments, without lies, without applause, just you and the truth you've avoided for too long. And that truth, no matter how much it hurts, is the only real seed of your freedom. And while you hold that question burning inside, while you allow yourself to see without blinking everything you've given to fear, I want you to contemplate another idea rarely mentioned. Most people don't even suspect that their mind betrays them subtly, not with big, obvious sabotages, but with small manipulations disguised as logic. Because your mind doesn't always want your well-being, it wants your survival. And survival, by nature, is conservative, fearful, addicted to routine. Think about this. Your brain is programmed to save energy, to not expose you to the unknown, to protect you from any possible emotional injury. So every time you have a glimpse of courage, every time you feel that spark of, I'm going to do it even if my legs shake, your mind activates an arsenal of excuses, so reasonable that even you convince yourself. Today I don't have enough information. Better wait until the right moment. First, I need to feel safer. These are phrases that sound smart, that seem like the speech of someone responsible, but they're exactly the reason you remain stuck. And I want you to observe something carefully. The human mind can justify anything. Absolutely anything. It can turn your quitting into virtue, your laziness into prudence, your fear into caution. And if you're not alert, if you don't train yourself to recognize those small, everyday betrayals, you will wake up in 20 years and discover you have spent half your life convinced that inaction was wisdom. That is the most dangerous poison, intellectual self-deception. Because while you believe you are making calculated decisions, you are actually obeying the most primitive impulse there is, not leaving your comfort zone, not challenging your narrative, not risking feeling shame. And even if you dress it up with pretty words, one thing doesn't change. Nothing that doesn't make you uncomfortable transforms you. So ask yourself with brutal honesty, how many times have you told yourself the story that, I'm already fine like this? How many times have you repeated that, I don't need more? Do you really believe that voice comes from fullness? Or is it simply your mind's most sophisticated way of making sure you don't grow? Because growth, real growth, never comes wrapped in calm. Growth comes like an internal earthquake that shakes your certainties, that disrupts your priorities, that forces you to decide whether you prefer the comfort of the known or the vertigo of the authentic. And if right now you are feeling that mix of discomfort and clarity, if something inside you stirs because these words sound dangerously true, congratulations, you're beginning to wake up. Because true awakening doesn't feel like a moment of peaceful enlightenment. It feels like a punch in the stomach, like an uncomfortable buzz that reminds you have been postponing the only conversation that matters for years, the one you have with yourself. I want you to imagine an extreme scenario. Imagine you're told you have 12 months left to live, not a day more. You can't negotiate that date. How much time would you spend justifying your fears? How much would you care about the opinion of those who never dared to live with courage? How many more days would you waste feeding the fantasy that someday, magically, you will be ready? Do you see? When you remove the illusion of infinite time, all excuses crumble. The awareness of your finitude is the antidote to lethargy, because no one who knows they are dying keeps pretending that what's important can wait. The problem is you believe you're immortal, not literally, but psychologically. You behave as if life will give you unlimited opportunities, as if you can keep rejecting every invitation to change without consequences. And I tell you bluntly, that's a lie. Every day you decide to postpone, every comfortable choice you make, every promise you break with yourself, is one less day you'll have to prove what you're capable of. And even if now you think I'm exaggerating, the moment will come when you remember this warning and shiver realizing it was true. Because no matter how much you distract yourself, how much you work, how much you smile, deep down you always know when you are betraying your potential. And here, I want to take you to a place most avoid: radical responsibility. Not partial responsibility, the kind you assume when it's comfortable and makes you feel virtuous. I'm talking about recognizing, without anesthesia, that everything you have allowed, everything you have accepted, everything you have tolerated has brought you exactly here. Even your inaction is a decision. Even your silence is a vote in favor of your own mediocrity. Radical responsibility is like a mirror that doesn't distort. It doesn't let you justify yourself. It doesn't allow you to hide in victimhood. It's uncomfortable. It's brutal. But it's the only way out. Because as long as you're convinced your circumstances have more power than your choices, you will always have a lifeline to do nothing. You will always be able to say it's not your fault, that life is unfair, that luck was never on your side. But if you have the courage to look at that mirror without looking away, you will discover something terrifying and liberating at the same time. That everything can change the day you decide to stop betraying yourself. And maybe you think that sounds too simple, that life is more complex than a speech about choices. But the complexity of life doesn't change the simplicity of this principle. Every day you move closer to the version of yourself you feed the most. If you feed your courage, your discipline, your ability to face fear head-on, you become someone who deserves the peace they seek. If you feed your weakness, your complacency, your self-deception, you become someone who collects excuses while their life shrinks to a collection of unfulfilled longings. So tell me, are you going to keep walking asleep, convinced there will always be a tomorrow to truly start? Or are you going to finally understand that time doesn't wait, that life doesn't slow down for your comfort, that your days vanish as easily as you're swallowing saliva right now? Because there is something no one will tell you. Every second you spend justifying your fear is a second that will never return. And if you don't decide what you will do with the few you have left, someone else will decide for you. And when that happens, you won't be able to say you didn't know. And when that happens, you won't be able to say you didn't know, because now, after hearing all this, your ignorance has died, and with it, the most comfortable excuse you had. What you do with this clarity no longer depends on your circumstances, nor on the opinion of those who never risked anything, nor on the emotional inheritance your parents, teachers, or environment gave you. And now that we've made it this far, before we continue, I want to present the following to you. Our book, The Formula of Awakening, is now available. Do you feel like there's something inside you that wants to awaken, but you don't know where to start? Then I invite you to transform your way of thinking, and with it, your way of living. Discover who you can become. Start today. The link to get the ebook is in the first pinned comment of this video. Grab your copy now at a great price. With that said, let's continue with the video. It depends, uniquely and exclusively, on how much you're willing to endure the discomfort of becoming someone different. I want you to breathe and stay with me one moment longer, because before you close this video, I want you to feel what it means to be completely awake. And I don't mean that comfortable lucidity that makes you nod while hearing words that sound nice. I mean a state where every cell of your body understands you're here temporarily, that you don't have a return ticket, that everything you love and everything you are will end up dissolving in time if you don't do something now. Maybe you think it sounds tragic, but there is nothing purer than recognizing your finitude. When you truly understand that your life is only one, and it escapes as quickly as you blink, something extraordinary happens. The layers of laziness, wounded pride, cowardice disguised as wisdom disappear. You're left with only the essential. And in that absolute silence, you discover that this whole struggle, this pain of choosing the uncomfortable, of facing your shadow, of feeling ridiculous while you learn, is the price of freedom. That freedom is not a romantic concept. It's the unique feeling of going to bed every night knowing you gave it your all, that there is no corner in your conscience piled with postponed decisions, that even if you have 1,000 battles left, you are no longer the person who shrinks from their own potential. And when you understand this, when you finally embrace it without reservations, something inside you rearranges. You no longer need anyone's approval. You no longer ask permission to grow. You no longer care if others see you stumble, because you know that whoever doesn't risk their dignity will never know the true taste of life. And now, before you return to your routine, I want to ask you one last question. I want you to write it down on a piece of paper. Keep it where you can see it every morning. What would happen if today you really choose? If you choose the discomfort that transforms you instead of the gratification that weakens you. If you choose to face what you have always avoided. If you choose to move, even if no one understands why. What would happen if today you decide your story deserves to be written with the ink of brutal honesty? Think carefully, because when night comes and you turn off all the lights, when there's no noise left but your breathing, that question will still be there, lodged in your chest like a truth you can't pull out. And in that moment, when no one is watching, that's when you will truly know what you're willing to do with the time you have left. If this video has stirred something inside you, and I'm sure it has, I invite you to subscribe, because here you won't find cheap comforts or prefab phrases. Here there's only room for those who dare to look at their own life with the courage it takes to change it. Leave me this phrase in the comments if you made it to the end. I choose vertigo over comfort. That way, I'll know you're one of the few who doesn't run away when the truth hits hard. Thank you for listening to the very last second. Thank you for allowing yourself to feel that discomfort that almost no one can bear. And remember, the people who make the most noise are usually the ones who dare the least. You didn't come here to make noise. You came to make history, even if it's in the absolute silence. See you soon, If you decide your next choice will be different from all the previous ones, and if not, don't worry. You'll still have the comfort of your own mediocrity. But don't say I didn't warn you. Turn off the screen, breathe, and choose.